kind of like when I had my first, I went to an Enlightenment Intensive when I was 16.
Wow.
And one of the interesting aspects of it was I had this horrific chronic neck pain that was constant since I was 14 years old. And I remember sitting there doing the process, and the neck pain was getting worse and worse and worse the closer that I got to a breakthrough. And
Right.
then right as I had that breakthrough, I had this enlightenment experience. So I was in the total just oneness state,
Hmm.
and I had no neck pain. In fact,
Yeah.
I couldn't even see my body anymore. It
Right.
was just this body of light, and I was looking out in this whole interconnectedness.
Right.
And
Right.
so if we could just maintain that state all the time, we'd be good to go. Wouldn't matter what's
Right.
going on. But these symptoms, illnesses, or even the problems we create in our life, they all show us where there's blockages to living in that state all the time.
Yeah.
And so you get to inquire into it. You get to see what's going on in there. And in that healing, there is that transcendence. There is that enlightenment that comes through it too. So it's a
Absolutely.
fun process.
Yeah. Wherever there's that, you could use the analogy of darkness, right? If you look at symptoms as like a clump of energy that is very compact and there's a lot of layers of mental images, as we were talking about memories or past experiences in the psyche, and it's dense, right? And in that density, there's darkness. Just go into the darkness.
Mm, bring the light to it.
It's not necessarily all of us, for all of us, it's not necessarily our first inclination. It's like, oh, don't go there. There, it
Hmm.
naturally has that protective layer of resistance and avoidance. But then if it becomes a physical symptom, it gets louder and louder, right? Until it's like
Yeah.
you can't avoid it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's why, getting back to why I said symptoms are really gifts, they're getting our attention to say there's something here, there's some information that your soul is being guided to really look at, and open up that dark pocket and bring some light, the light of awareness into it, and just see what's there for you to discover about yourself, about maybe hidden past traumas, energy you're holding on to, what you're ready to forgive and let go of. And then that dark pocket kind of just, it unravels, it opens up. And then, like you said, there's a healing crisis in the sense that once that's opening up, there's layers of energy releasing, right? So, on a
Yeah.
physical symptom level, you might experience a little bit more intensity in your symptoms as that energy is coming out. But then on the other side of that, there's the conflict
Yeah.
resolution and the
You're
clear.
a new person.
Yeah. So it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's always
Yes.
worth it to look into those dark
Yeah.
pockets.
Yeah, it is. It can feel like it's not worth it when you're caught bouncing back and forth. When you start to have the big healing symptoms, but then you just go right back into conflict activity because it's not actually resolved. That's chronic illness, but
Yeah.
also people that
It can be
uh
disheartening.
also people with
Urgent.
relationship patterns, career
Mhm.
patterns, where something keeps happening over and over again. It's a
Yeah.
similar thing where it hasn't actually been addressed and resolved. And a
Yeah.
lot of people get stuck trying to change something externally to make
Right.
their life better, but that's working on the effect. It's not going to ever matter because the cause has to change in order for
Yeah.
the effect in the world or the effect in your body to shift.
Right.
So if you don't address it at that level, nothing's going to happen. Like, for example,
Yeah.
I had some conflicts with water, with fluidity.
Even
Um,
water.
well, yeah, let me explain. So
Okay, I want to hear more.
I had a big cut on my arm,
Hmm.
and it was stitched over and it was trying to heal. And
Yeah.
then I went to go be on a rafting trip, and they said, so you're rafting, but you're also days away from any public roads. Like
Right. Right.
it's out there.
You're remote. Yeah.
Yeah, you like pack in the rafts. And so they're like, if this gets wet and gets infected, you'll die.
Oh my gosh.
And yep.
A little alarming.
So water's dangerous, right?
Right,
Going
right,
off in the
right.
brain. And sure
Mhm.
enough, it did get wet. It did get
I
infected.
mean, on a raft, I
And
would imagine you're going to get wet.
yep. And it turned green and yellow and swelled up so much that it dislocated my wrist.
Oh my God.
And the infection grew over top of the staples. So they had to emergency evac me and cut off that first layer of skin to get to the
Oh my God.
staples. But here's the interesting part. So water conflict, right? Body registers fluidity is dangerous. What else is a currency? Money.
Mm.
So my psyche was seeing money as dangerous in large amounts. And so I would make great money. I was doing really well in my career at the time, but
Yeah.
then something crazy would happen. My car crashed the one day I didn't have insurance. My house
Wow.
leaked and
Yeah.
had mold that wasn't covered by insurance. It was like literally back to back 30 grand plus bills that were
Yeah.
not covered over and over again, tanking me. And so until I actually addressed that fluidity conflict, that water conflict that was in there,
Yeah.
which I would have never known I had, except for the fact that it was creating certain symptoms in my body. And thanks
Yeah.
to knowing the map of what symptom correlates to what thing, I was
Yeah.
able to put it together and eventually find that memory and go,
It's
ah,
wild.
there it is.
I love that.
So,
Yeah, it's so wild what the associative mind can put together. Because on a conscious level, we would say, well, that doesn't seem to correlate.
right.
On an energy vibration level, money really is just movement of energy, right? The
Hmm.
flow of energy.
Yeah.
So I can
That's why
see
it's
where
called a
that would, on a
currency.
subconscious level, have an association. That's great that you found that.
Yeah. Yeah. Our bodies are very literal.
Yeah.
They're very literal. Like I had a client today who was experiencing constipation and pain from it. And I go, well, yeah, there's this huge thing in your life that you feel like you can't digest. You can't move it forward.
Yeah.
So I'm like, we either got to change your perspective around that event or we got to move you past that moment in your life so that it will resolve.
Yeah.
And, just the awareness of it sometimes resolves it. The first time I had worked through him, just bringing awareness to that, it resolved. His constipation was gone the next day. Yeah. So it's pretty cool stuff.
And able to just let go. So you found on a mental level what he was holding on to, not able to
Hmm.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is so literal.
Yeah. And it'll show up in people's language too. If you're mindful of how someone's talking or you're mindful of your own thoughts. Like I woke up this morning and I was having certain stomach pain. And I go, oh, okay, stomach pain relates to this territorial anger that I'm experiencing. And I was like, what was I thinking about? Oh, I was thinking about the neighbor's dog and the fact that it barks all day and night. And I'm going to do this podcast and this dog's
You
probably
got
going to
some
bark.
dog
And
stuff.
so there's this, yeah. And so I made the mental connection and now my stomach
Yeah.
feels great. I'm like, oh, okay, phew. So
Yeah.
once you know the map, you know how to investigate that stuff. You
Yeah.
can just dissolve it. It's like magic.